Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Decodable webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about the new Datadog connector. We have Sak with us, who led the development of this connector, so you're hearing about it straight from the horse's mouth. So without any further ado, I will go ahead and hand it over to Sak to tell you a little bit more about it and show a demo.
Sweet. Thanks, David. I'm still unable to start my video, so you might not be able to see my face, but hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Well, okay, that's fine. I guess I'm faceless today. But as long as you can hear me, I think that's good. Thanks for joining for all the attendees who have joined so far, and I'm sure we're recording this, so this will also be put on Decodable's channels for you guys to benefit from. Today I want to like demo the Datadog connector. I don't think that I have a lot to say just in terms of like details about the connector other than what you're going to see during the demo. And ideally, what you see will give you an idea of potential use cases that you can unlock for your own uses, just in terms of how you do metrics ingestion to Datadog. The motivation behind it is, in response to a lot of our customers' needs. They needed some way to ingest metrics from Decodable, like the product, into their Datadog deployments so that they can monitor the state and the health of their Decodable jobs, right? Namely, the connections and pipelines running. So I'm going to do exactly that in this demo. Without much further ado, I'm going to start sharing my screen. And there will be, time for, questions, later in the webinar. And at that point, we can sort of talk about use cases. We can talk about the technical details of the connector itself and sort of unlock some of those, use cases that you may have. So I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Sweet. So here we are just in, an account, a Decodable account that I'm running. And I'm going to focus on this Datadog sync demo, which I've already set up. What I'm going to show you are just the details on the connection. These are what you would fill out. These are the fields that you would fill out in order to configure your Datadog connector. And the sort of primary components of this configuration are an API key for your Datadog deployment. The site, which for most people running in the US will be Datadog HQ. And if you're in the EU, then it would be datadoghq.eu. And three sort of pillars of what is actually going to be sent to Datadog from your stream. So here we see metric name column, metric value column, and timestamp column. I'm going to sort of illustrate that just based on the stream that we're feeding to this Datadog connection as an input. And we're reading from underscore metrics. If you don't know what underscore metrics is, it's essentially a stream that contains all the decodable metrics for your account. And the fields that the columns I actually care about are this metric name, metric value, and the timestamp. So this is the timestamp at which this particular metric row was generated. And the metric row in the stream is defined by the metric name and a metric value. So in this case, if we have for this resource called Snowpipe demo, this bytes in total metric whose value is 343589. So when you're ingesting your metrics to Datadog, what you're going to see is a metric named bytes in total with a value of this at this particular timestamp. And since what we're sending to Datadog is a time series, so you're going to see, I'm going to illustrate how these metrics sort of evolve over time and how we can sort of visually display them in Datadog itself. So with that in mind, let me go ahead and start the connector. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the latest offset, because let's just say all I really care about are the state of the decodable jobs running at this particular moment onwards. So what we should expect to see are these metrics flowing in, corresponding to the particular timestamps at which they're generated. And there's this extra sort of meta field here called a metric name prefix, which I've set to sock webinar demo. This is essentially just a static prefix that's prepended to the name of every metric that will appear in Datadog. And it just gives you a way of sort of distinguishing or sort of namespacing your Datadog metrics coming from Decodable. So what I'm going to do is search for this in my actual Datadog app. So let me just go there right now. And I'm going to search for sock webinar demo. And let's just look at the bytes. Let's do records in total. So I'm going to set the granularity to the past 5 minutes. And I might need to wait a little longer for this thing to start up. So while this is starting up, another thing that I'll sort of show you here, what I've also configured are tag columns. So as the description sort of suggests, this is basically just a comma separated list of columns whose values will be included as tags on the metrics, right? And so what that's going to look like is, let's just isolate like resource name, for example. I have all these metrics that are flowing from underscore metrics into Datadog, and I want some way to basically filter my metrics based on a tag. And in this case, I can choose to make my tag column like the resource name. So for example, we should expect to see snowpipe demo, just for example, as one potential value for the tag resource name. And that'll just give me like a more visually, it'll give me a visual representation of my metrics that makes a lot more sense. So I'll show you what that looks like here. We're seeing that this metric is starting to flow in. And so now let me try to let me just refresh real quick. Let me try to filter by resource name. And so we should expect to see, right? This is the job that I'm running. This is that snowpipe demo that we saw in the underscore metric stream. And you can sort of see how these metrics are going to evolve over time. I'll just show you one more. I'll try records out total. So this is a metric that I believe is only enabled for pipelines. So we have some pipelines running in our account, and we can sort of monitor the state of these pipelines based on the value of this like records out total metric. And we can visualize it by filtering on the account ID, resource ID, basically any additional field on the stream that you're ingesting to Datadog is available for filtering based on a tag. So I hope that gives you a good idea of what you can do with the Datadog connector. It is a sync connector, so you can only send metrics to Datadog, and you can't yet pull metrics out of Datadog. So with that in mind, let's probably jump into questions. I've been talking a lot, so I'd like to sort of yield to the audience. If anybody has any questions on this, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, so there's a couple that have come in. You actually answered one of them. Tom was asking, does Decodable support log ingestion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does Decodable support log ingestion? It's a great question. Currently, no. We designed this connector to just be for metrics ingestion, just in response to the needs of some of our customers. But we are definitely open to exploring the possibility of doing logs ingestion. We just haven't prioritized it yet. So it's definitely like a feature that we have on the backlog. So, and I can't share exactly when we prioritize it, but it is definitely in the backlog.
Cool. Another question, Sarah is asking, can I send historical metrics to Datadog?
Oh, great question. So I believe, so we use Datadog's metric submission API. I think I have that pulled up here. This is the API that we use to actually submit metrics to Datadog. And I believe the policy is that record or metrics that are older than 1 hour are not ingested. So this API is not usable for historical metrics ingestion. And let me see, is there any other context I can provide here? I believe that's it. This connector is not for historical metrics, no.
Gotcha, cool. All right, one more question we've got from John. He wants to know, how does the connector scale metrics submission to Datadog?
That's a good question. Basically, based on the response from the API, the connector is able to sort of throttle and scale requests that it makes based on the failure or the success rate. So the connector will basically find an optimal rate to actually send records through to Datadog. And there are a couple of parameters, such as the size, the number of tasks that you're running, and the actual task size that you configure in Decodable that actually will affect the throughput, affect the amount of metrics that you can send to Datadog at a time. So basically, the connector has the ability to scale on its own, given the CPU and memory resources that you configure on the task or on the job when you activate it. And just to show you what that looks like, right now I'm running with the tasks. So let me stop it real quick. I can specify a task size. And so if I wanted to process a lot of metrics at once, or just have like a high throughput, I would probably use a task size large. So those are different ways that you can sort of control the throughput of sending metrics to Datadog.
Very cool. All right, those are all the questions that we have so far. I don't know if there was anything else that you wanted to cover before we wrap up.
I think just in general, if there's any feedback or feature requests for this particular Datadog connector or anything in general that comes to mind, please join our Slack community. That's the place where people like engineers like me and other people on the team will be monitoring and able to answer questions and sort of field feature requests and stuff like that. So yeah, please feel free to engage in our community. We'd love to see you there.
All right, perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap up real quick. So I'll share my screen here with just a couple of next steps that you can take. So first of all, of course, we'd love to if you would come and visit our website to learn more about Decodable, what the product is. We've been using a lot of, kind of Decodable specific terminology with our connectors and pipelines and things like that. If you don't already have a good idea about the Decodable platform, please do visit that, and that can give you a lot more information. Also, you'll be able to find in the footer there the link to join the Slack community. Also, we have a couple of quick start guides. There is the web-based, which is what Sak's been showing. There's also a CLI-based quick start guide. So you can find those on our docs site. And so you can come visit the website, start a free trial if you want to test some of these things out, walk through the quick start guide if you want to just get an idea of how the whole site works. And as Sak said, you can join the community, reach out to us, ask us questions, provide feedback. We would definitely love to hear from you. So with that, we will go ahead and wrap up. This was short and sweet, but hopefully you found that valuable. Sak, thank you very much for presenting today. And for everyone, we hope to see you soon for the next Decodable webinar. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, David. Thanks, guys.